If any of you have ever driven a car, you will likely be familiar with a rather important term called the blind spot. This term is used to refer to areas outside of our field of vision, where objects or other vehicles may be present, yet we remain unaware of them. Therefore, the blind spot can be extremely hazardous while driving, and experienced drivers often need to maintain vigilance to avoid sudden dangerous situations arising from this blind spot. In daily life, there's a similar concept known as a blind spot, and it can be just as perilous, if not more so, than when driving a car. Today, I'll delve into the concept of blind spots in life, so that we can have a broader perspective and learn to deal with them effectively. To analyze this issue, I'll share some intriguing insights I've gathered over time. This knowledge has helped me gain a deeper understanding of what I know and what I don't. When it comes to knowledge, we can easily distinguish between two types: what we know and what we don't know. For example, I know how to drive a car, but don't know how to pilot a spacecraft, for instance. However, delving deeper into this issue, there are additional types of knowledge, specifically, a total of 4. Now, I'll share how these 4 types work. First, there's what everyone can know, as in the previous example, such as my knowledge of driving. Next, there's the case of knowing what we don't know, also like the example before, such as my awareness that I don't know how to pilot a spacecraft. These are the first 2 groups, and they're fairly straightforward. Now, let's move on to the remaining 2 groups, which are where things get interesting. The third group is the group of things I didn't know that I knew. I knew and was familiar with it, but I forgot their existence and accidentally became unknown. It might sound somewhat illogical, but in reality, if you pay close attention, you'll see this is a rather common phenomenon. It often occurs in situations where we're overly familiar with a skill or a piece of knowledge, leading us to forget that it's also a form of knowledge. The simplest example is knowing how to walk, a skill we've had to learn since childhood. However, as we grow older, it becomes so routine that we hardly pay attention to it anymore, almost forgetting that we possess the skill of walking. Similarly, in knowledge, there are types of knowledge that we already know, and are so accustomed to that we assume everyone else knows it too. It might not seem too serious, but in some cases, it's an issue we need to be aware of. A specific example is before I started this podcast series, I often thought that certain topics were common knowledge, and sharing about them would be meaningless. However, the result was, when I finished and received feedback, I realized that such knowledge actually helped many people understand themselves better. Even with today's topic, initially, I also thought everyone knew about it, and sharing wouldn't be valuable. But gradually, I learned how to overcome that mindset, and it has helped me in many instances. We'll delve deeper into how to handle and confront such issues in the next part. Now, onto the final type, and this one is the most dangerous: not knowing what we don't know. This is the blind spot in life that I mentioned earlier, where there are things we don't know and also don't know that we don't know them. It might sound a bit convoluted, so let me provide an example to clarify. Going back to the driving example, when we don't know how to drive, it's obvious that we know we don't know how to drive. That's the second case. When we learn basic driving skills, we might think we're done, that now we know how to drive. However, if we delve deeper, we'll realize there are countless other skills, concepts, and knowledge about driving that we don't know. For instance, efficient door handling, safe hill driving, or proper nighttime driving and light usage. There are even more advanced skills, like gear shifting and reacting to dangerous road situations. The more we explore, the more we realize how much we don't know. This only scratches the surface of driving. When it comes to more complex topics in life, we'll find that our understanding is still very limited. The deeper we go, the more we realize how little we know, and at some point, we'll be surprised to discover just how much we don't know. At this stage, we begin to diminish our arrogance and become more humble. This is the case for those who are extremely skilled in a particular field, but always acknowledge how much they don't know. The reason is they truly understand that their knowledge is just a tiny fraction of the field they study. Conversely, there are also those who know only a little about a certain topic, but consider themselves experts, leading to numerous other issues. We'll revisit these issues later on. Now, let's explore this issue through another expression. Imagine we're studying a certain topic, like investing in the stock market. Before we start learning about this topic, it's clear that we know nothing about it. This is stage 1, the stage where we realize we don't know. As we spend time researching, we begin to accumulate knowledge. We gain some understanding of how to buy and sell stocks, read charts, and grasp some investment methods. This is stage 2, where we know what we know. Continuing our research and gaining experience, our circle of understanding expands. At this point, 2 interesting effects emerge. The first effect is that after a few years of investing in the stock market, things we initially felt familiar with turn out to be a type of knowledge from the start. For example, how to place buy and sell orders, how to set upper and lower price limits, and precisely because we've become so familiar with them, there are things we forget, which are still a form of knowledge. These are the things we forget that they're also skills, knowledge, and according to our earlier term, they are the things we don't know we know, which is the first effect. The second effect, which is more important, is that as our circle of knowledge gradually expands, we also have another fragmented circle that expands alongside it. The intersection between these 2 circles is the knowledge we know exists in the world, but we haven't yet learned. For example, we know that to invest safely, we need to know how to analyze financial statements. However, within those financial statements, there are countless pieces of knowledge that we haven't fully grasped yet. And these pieces of knowledge reside in this intersection. These are the things we know we don't know. At the same time, we vaguely realize that outside of this intersection lies another vast realm of knowledge, which we may not even know exists in the world. These are things that lie beyond the boundary of this fragmented circle, meaning our vision hasn't yet reached these pieces of knowledge. And this is precisely what we don't know that we don't know. It's the blind spot, the very thing I wanted to highlight in today's episode. What I've just described to you is another perspective on a very famous psychological phenomenon known as the Dunning-Kruger effect. At some point, I'll dedicate an episode to discussing this effect in detail. In today's episode, we'll focus more on how we should confront these blind spots in life. You can clearly see that this is an effect. It belongs to the realm of psychology, meaning it's not a story unique to anyone, but rather something all of us go through to some extent. It means we transition from knowing nothing to knowing a little, but precisely because we only know a little, the horizon still appears to be right next to what we know. Therefore, we think that's all there is to these topics, and it's only when we know more that the horizon begins to expand further, creating a gap between what we know and what we know we don't know. From there, we gradually realize that there are countless other things lying within the realm of what we don't yet know. Things we were unaware of in the initial stage, the stage of just learning about something. The common psychology is that people often consider themselves experts and start behaving arrogantly from there. This is the most dangerous stage in the journey of accumulating knowledge in any field, and it's akin to the stage of drivers who have only been driving for a few years, believing they have acquired certain driving skills, making them think they're very proficient already. Consequently, they start speeding and driving recklessly. However, during this stage, they have not yet developed higher-level skills, such as anticipating situations and predicting dangers before they occur. And it's this stage of arrogance that often proves to be the most dangerous in their driving journey, as serious accidents tend to happen at this stage, rather than when they were just learning to drive. Similarly, another example in investing follows the same pattern. The people who lose the most money are not usually beginners, but those who have been investing for a while, have won a few times, and experienced some market growth periods. Then they think they're experts and start pouring in more money, taking higher risks. And just like in the case of driving, accidents at this stage can sometimes leave us with no chance to start over. So how can we avoid these problems? In my opinion, the most effective way is to see the big picture, the overview of any knowledge-gathering journey. Having such a comprehensive view will help us understand that everyone goes through these stages. From there, we become aware of which stage we're in, especially the early stages when we start. we can catch ourselves being arrogant and overconfident. With this awareness, we'll know how to control ourselves and behave more appropriately. We avoid letting it naturally progress, because if it does, it's not until stages 3 or 4 that we realize we're just a frog at the bottom of a well, and only then do we start to be humble and behave properly. But by then, it might be too late, or at least it will make our journey of accumulating knowledge inefficient. Thanks to having such a comprehensive view, we can recognize that we're only at the beginning of the journey. From there, we can be more humble, have a more cautious attitude in our knowledge accumulation journey, and it will make our journey smoother. We'll receive more appreciation and support from others, instead of having an arrogant attitude that everyone hates, and when we fail, no one cares. It all comes down to attitude and humility, and when we have such a comprehensive view, I believe it will help us have humility and positive attitudes from earlier stages. In my younger years, I've also experienced such instances of arrogance. Now, looking back, with more knowledge, I understand that every field is vast and extensive. This realization has helped me approach everything with a different attitude, and these attitudes have greatly benefited my life. That's why I share this knowledge, hoping it will be useful to you all. Additionally, as usual, because YouTube's algorithm prioritizes videos with more likes, if you enjoyed this video, please hit the like button to help our video reach more people. Also, you may consider subscribing to the channel so that whenever I update new content, YouTube will notify you. Thank you for your support, and I wish you all a peaceful day ahead.